I've got a serious question for you. What is your net worth? Here's what's funny. Most high earners can tell you their income almost down to the dollar, but ask what they're worth, and most of them aren't even close. Usually they're off by more than $100,000. I asked this to somebody recently. They were super sharp. They have a finance degree. They'd worked at Chase and then Bank of America. They were a great saver and they earned six figures. She bought a house by herself in her mid 20s. She did everything by the book. 12 years later, I asked the question and her face just kind of paused. You could see her doing the math in her head. The home equity, the balances, the assets. Finally, she's like, I guess it's 400,000. The true answer was closer to $600,000. We sat down and actually figured it out. And she was off by more than a couple $100,000. Now, fortunately for her, she had more than she thought. But think about that. A finance professional off by six figures on her own life. And honestly, most people aren't that fortunate. They could be off in the wrong direction. And here's the thing. Nobody chooses to be disorganized. It just happens. You change jobs and you tell yourself, yeah, I'll roll over the 401k, but you're switching over your health insurance. You're learning the new company's tech stack. You're just trying to figure out your new role. And the 401k never got transferred over. And then there's the brokerage account when you did a little trading, the crypto from the crypto years. Maybe there's a little bit of Dogecoin sitting in there somewhere. Just be honest. And so now you're sitting on six accounts across four institutions and nobody is supervising any of it. I live this. I can talk about it. A few years ago, my accounts were scattered everywhere. There were multiple crypto accounts, multiple brokerage accounts. I had an Acorns app and I literally had to reset my password to get back into. That's how long it had been. And look, sometimes that's a fun surprise. Logging into an account that you forgot about, finding a few $1,000s in there, but that's not like a strategy. That's just losing track of your own money and calling it a win. And since I started doing this professionally, I've now seen inside dozens of portfolios. I met with someone with 17 different accounts, 17 of them. And a couple of them they lost access to entirely. It took days just to recover the password. And here's why this happens to successful people consistently. Success creates a delusion of proficiency. You're proficient at work, you're proficient at home, so you assume you're proficient here. But your proficiency is where you spend your attention, and your money hasn't gotten any of it. Now let's talk about the real cost in all of this. It's not just the fees. The fees are in there too, and they're usually hidden. But the real cost is this. No one is accountable for the whole portfolio. So try this. Imagine you're an employee who's worked 20 years and no supervisor. There was no quarterly reviews. There's no goals. There's no report cards for 20 years. You feel like you as an employee are going to hit your targets? Are you coasting? You don't really know. And that's the point because nobody's looked. And that's your portfolio. I learned about 401ks in my early 20s from a supervisor at my first real job. He was a great guy. He told me about compound interest. He told me that I needed to start early and I'm super grateful. So what did I do? I opened the account. I picked the highest yield option on the menu and I forgot it existed. I didn't rebalance it. I didn't check it very often to see that I was still in the right scenario. I just set it and forget it for years. And later when I finally tried to get serious, taxes, insurance for my family, building income streams, I found the second problem. I hired the professionals and the professionals didn't talk to each other. When my accountant has a strategy, does my financial advisor even know about it and how to implement it for me? Is anybody implementing it at all? Nobody's corroborating anything. You're getting tossed around doing your own fact finding while holding down a job, a family, a spouse. It's a full-time job that nobody is paying you for. And my wife, she's not the finance person. And so it wasn't just about being disorganized. I was isolated. It was all on me. And I didn't know that I was getting it right. So let me tell you about the moment you're able to turn it all around. Because I get to watch that moment every single week now. I sat down recently with a man in his 70s. He was an amazing guy. He's funny, he's engaging, he's clearly built a successful life. He's got a seven-figure net worth, but most of it is tied up into his home. The rest was scattered everywhere. And he tells me, and these are his words, my kids have been telling me for 20 years, Dad, you need to get your finances in order. For 20 years. And the reason his kids kept pushing is because their mom, his wife, is not well. If something happens to him, she can't find any of it. The accounts, the logins, where things are, none of it. And sitting across from him, this man started tearing up. Not because the news was bad, but it's because someone was finally looking at it with him. And I'll be honest, I felt something too, because I knew we could actually fix it. Everything just being in one place. So if anything ever happened to him, his family isn't finding out what's going on after the fact. They have an actual plan. That's what one page can do. Every account, every dollar, one look. Most people have never seen it, not once in their life. So here's the part where I tell you what I do about it. I do portfolio reviews, free ones. You send me one document, your most recent statement. It only takes 5 minutes for you to pull. And I put your entire picture on one page and walk you through it. What you own, what it's actually costing you, and whether any of it's actually pointed at the life you want to build. And it just takes 15 minutes. And people ask, why is this free? Let me tell you exactly why. Because whether we ever work together or not, I want you walking away with more clarity about your money than you ever have. Because I know what it feels like to be isolated in this, to be the only one carrying it, unsure you're getting it right. I don't want that for you, but mostly it's this. I want you to be able to look your spouse in the eye, to look your kids in the eye when they ask, are we okay? Is retirement good? And you be able to say, absolutely. And here's how I know. And you can just show them that page. That confidence is the product. The review is free. The link is below. It's just going to be one statement, just one page. It's going to take just 15 minutes. So be the one that finally looked. I'll see you on the next one.